Go.
The late great musician Bob Marley once said, "Herb is the healing of a nation." This is nothing short of many people's beliefs. The use of cannabis, or marijuana, dates back to 1619, when the early Jamestown settlers grew cannabis sativa, or hemp plant, as a big part in their everyday lives. They used the strong fibers to make rope, sails, and other clothing. Since then, doctors such as Joyce Elders, MD, and Philip Denny, MD, have performed many studies in which many cancer and many other patients of various diseases smoked marijuana to see if it would decrease their side effects of the medicine or possibly even ease their pain caused by their disease. Think about it. Did you ever think marijuana could be used for medical purposes? What would you say if your doctor prescribed it to you? 38 out of 45 people said they would be okay with being prescribed medical marijuana if their doctor truly believed it would help. The United States government should legalize marijuana for the use of medical purposes. Today, I will convince you that not only will the legalization of medical marijuana put our criminal justice system to better use, and that a regulated legal market would reduce sales and use among teenagers, but it can also be used to relieve pain caused by certain diseases and medicines. Cannabis sativa is a plant that has been legally used for most of human history. From 1619 and throughout the 1700s, the hemp plant was used for making everyday items like rope, sails, and clothing. From the 1800s till the 1930s, cannabis extract medicines were produced by many American pharmaceutical companies, including Eli Lilly, Park Davis, and Squibb. The use of medical marijuana continued to be used legally throughout the 1930s. In the late 1930s, people began to see certain side effects of the drug, and because of lack of knowledge of those certain effects, most people changed their opinion of the drug. It became frowned upon and eventually illegal. Most associated it with the devil. This attitude toward marijuana continued until about the 1970s. And here you can kind of see some of the posters that they used during this time. Like, that one is pronounced differently, and it's like the drug is originally from Mexico, and so when they came, they were like kind of saying what it was. They had a heavy accent. So this one is actually a movie poster, and there's a movie called Reefer Madness, and this one is saying how it's like the devil's drug, and if you can see there, that's actually the devil. And what all these kind of have in common is that they're saying that it's not for children. Like, that one says not recommended for children. This one says, what does it say? Adults only. And this one says it's a vicious racket with its arms around your children. So, throughout this time period, many campaigns against the drug began to pop up. One of the most popular ones was First Lady Nancy Reagan's Just Say No campaign. Throughout the 1990s, the teenage use of marijuana skyrocketed, and the drug was not legalized until 1996, when California became the first state to do so. Although today there are 15 states, plus Washington, D.C., that allow marijuana to be legal for medical purposes, that is not nearly enough to even begin to make a change in the problem that surrounds the legalization of marijuana. And if you can see here, this is a list of the states, plus Washington, D.C., which is number 5, that all have it legalized for medical purposes. And the different columns show the year, how it was passed, how much it is, how much you can have. And what's really cool about this one is it says that certain states like Arizona, if you have a registered ID card in any other state, you can get marijuana from that state. But only 5 states have it like that. The main problem with, one of the main problems with the legalization of medical marijuana is the government is wasting time and money of our criminal justice system. Adam Rutter from CanadiaContent.net said, "We live in a country where we have the freedom of speech and right. Our government wastes millions upon millions of dollars each year in the fight against marijuana users and growers." Tattered Soul 77 from Squidoo.com, which is kind of like a blog, said that the country could tax and regulate marijuana the same way they do alcohol and cigarettes. These many people's opinions show that multiple people believe the government spends millions of dollars a year on the war against drug, and instead of profiting from it, the government is costing the country millions of dollars on a daily basis. Another problem that, this is a chart that kind of shows you how the spending of the government's money for law enforcement went up to $7.6 billion a year, and that's just for the war against drugs. It has nothing to do with the other money that goes into law enforcement for other crimes. Another problem that surrounds the legalization of marijuana is the actual sales. A regulated legal market of marijuana will reduce sales and use among teenagers. The president of Mexico, Felipe Calderon, said the Americans, rather than regulating or establishing an adequate drug, immigration, or arms legislation, have allowed organized crime to regulate those markets. Talia Haggerty from Perspectives on GlobalIssues.com said the only ones currently profiting from the illegal marijuana market are drug lords and dangerous organizations. Tattered Soul 77 from Squiddy.com came up with a great idea, or made a really good valid point that said a buyer, especially a teenager, who is purchasing the illegal drug does not always know exactly what they are getting. In fact, for all they know, the drug could be laced with something more dangerous. Finally, the most common argument when it comes to the legalization of medical marijuana is, does it actually have a medical value to it? And the answer to that is yes. Luis Gerdes, author of the book Marijuana, has said that multiple doctors and patients have said that the use of medical marijuana lessens the side effects of certain diseases and medicines such as pain, nausea, vomiting, multiple sclerosis, and AIDS. Jay Cavanaugh, PhD, and David L. Behrman, MD, are just two of the many doctors who have done studies that have proven that certain pain and other discomforts caused by certain diseases and medicines is greatly reduced with the use of marijuana. Although we have all these great ideas of how we would be better off with the legalization of medical marijuana, nothing can be done without taking action. So I am asking everyone in this room to do two simple things. Learn the facts and spread the word. Learn everything you can about the use and effects of medical marijuana and educate yourselves. Use that knowledge to educate others. If everyone knew a little bit more about medical marijuana than they already do, we might actually have a chance of getting it legalized all across the United States. So to summarize, the United States government should legalize marijuana for medical purposes, not only because it will put our criminal justice system to better use and that a regulated legal market would reduce sales and use among teenagers, but it can also be used to relieve pain caused by certain diseases and medicines. So I'm sure you are all sitting there asking yourselves, why should I care about medical marijuana? I don't have any disease or anything like that. Well, I'll tell you why you should care. Because one day you never know what might happen. And you know what else? Medical marijuana could become our main medicine for certain diseases like cancer. And you never know. You could be the one who needs it someday. So to finish off, I just kind of have some posters that are kind of up now, and they use certain celebrities like James Franco and Seth Rogen to kind of like I don't know. And the one in the middle is Al Capone, and that poster is actually, to me, makes the most sense. And it says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And what it's saying is that Al Capone was around during alcohol prohibition, and he led kind of like a life of crime, and he sold alcohol and served alcohol illegally, and a lot of crimes arose from it. And what they're saying is alcohol prohibition didn't work, so why do we think marijuana prohibition will? And then these posters, this has Michael Phelps, Lindsay Lohan, and John Lennon. And that just has a famous quote from John Lennon about marijuana. This is saying that you don't feel hungover, you can't overdose on it. And this one's saying how, unlike heavy tobacco smokers, heavy marijuana smokers exhibit no obstruction of the lungs, small airways, and that indicates people will not develop emphysema from smoking marijuana. And so, that's it. Thank you.